Well, right now, surprisingly, compared to a lot of the other family, I'm doing a lot better than everybody else. My aunt was the one that let me know about it, and so it kind of hit me at first, but I had to keep my composure. So, and then I was the one that had to let my younger brother know about it, which of course I had to wake him up with the news. So it kind of hurt him a lot more than it did me.
How old are you?
I'm 27.
And how old is your younger brother?
He is Blake. He is 23.
Okay, and Ricky?
Yes.
How old is he?
Or Travis. Travis
I'm
is.
sorry, Travis.
That's fine. Travis is 16.
Tell me about this. Tell me about what you told Cynthia and now.
No, what had happened was he needed some help. Everybody knew it. He had anger issues.
Has he been diagnosed with anything?
No, the middle one, he was. So we think that's probably what had happened too, is because it didn't happen until later on, until he grew up. But the middle one got help. Blake got help, so he's got all his under control. Me, I've got anger issues, but it takes a lot to push me over the edge, especially with my military training. So I've got mine real under control. But Travis, I think it just all hit him all at once, because mom and dad separated for a little while, and mom was always more strict on Travis than she was us other two. So I think that kind of pushed him a little bit farther away, hanging out with the wrong people at certain times, and just getting in trouble ever so often. And I think he, yeah.
What kind of trouble had he gotten into, like fights?
Well, that's what we think, because he'd come home every now and then from school, he'd have a black eye or something like that, and he'd say he fell. But of course, he constantly lied about certain things too, and
Would
yes.
you categorize it as? I mean, Cynthia had mentioned maybe kind of like a. Not really. It's more. I get anger issues. I know people that have had that, and it's like a rage.
Yes.
Like almost like road rage, but not in a car.
Yeah. He. I would have to say it would be somewhat like he had bipolar, and just the slightest bit of little thing could push him over the edge and he'd explode with anger.
Has he always been like that, even when he was a child?
When he was real little, he wasn't. Which as he started getting older and everything, and started to have a little bit more freedom, then that's when he started to get more aggressive and everything like that. So.
Had he, after he got older, did he ever hit your mom or dad?
As far as I know, he never did. He never laid a hand on them, which of course, whenever I was around, he was a little bit more respectful because he knew I was a little bit bigger and I'd set him in his place. But as far as my mom and dad, all three of us were bigger than they were. So I guess Travis being the youngest one, he was still between me and Blake. Blake's the middle child, but he's the smallest. And so whenever I was around, he was a little bit more calm and everything like that. But from what Dad always said at work, as me and Dad worked together, is he'd always get aggravated or upset, outraged, and start yelling and cussing and want to just run off and everything.
Like we were just saying on the phone, this must be the ultimate nightmare because you love your brother,
Mm-hmm.
but now you are dealing with you're mourning the loss of your mom.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
your brother. Sorry. So, you tell me, are you in shock? Are you trying to deal with the love him and you, like, what do you do? Because he's taken your mom away,
Yeah.
but you don't necessarily want to see him go to jail.
Let's say he is my brother, and I still do love him, regardless of what he does. Of course, he's family, so I'm always going to love him, no matter what. But I do know he needs help, and he does need to take responsibility for what he did. Even with him being 16 and them trying him as an adult, I know he was in the state of mind. He knew what was going on. So it's not like he done it and they said, "Oh man, what just happened?" So I know he was coherent about what it was going on. So I know he does need to pay for what he done. But at the same time, of course, I still love him and everything, and know he needs help, and that he could probably get everything under control if he got the right help.
Were you close with your mom?
Yes, I was close with my mom. I mean, me and her had arguments back and forth and everything, especially while I was deployed, because there were some things that needed to get done, and she had her point of views on stuff. But I mean, I still got along real great with her, still loved her and everything like that. Of course, I think we were all closer to our dad than what we was with our mom. But I mean, we all still loved her mom, even though she had a couple of rough times. Especially with the things going on with some other issues in the family. So it kind of hit her real hard. So I think that just kind of drug her downhill. And then, of course, from there, it just, I guess with Travis being the only one at the house, he kind of took it a little bit harder than everybody else.
What were some of the issues?
I'm currently, me and my ex-wife got a divorce, so we're still trying to figure out the whole thing with our kids. So we can't really do anything until they get back to Alabama, because they're still at Fort Bliss. I didn't want to get it mixed up. Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas.
I can tell, like with you being a military man, that you are a strong person.
Yes.
Like emotionally strong.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine. I cannot imagine. You just lost your mom. How many? Like, was it a day ago?
Yeah, it was. It happened Sunday night. It wasn't found until Monday morning. So on Veterans Day is when they found him.
And then you had to tell your brother.
Yes. As me and my wife,
This is the business road. This is like a major intersection.
Yeah, their Corridor X is just right down the road down here. So all the big trucks come through to get on Corridor X.
I know you must be strong if you were the one that had to tell your brother.
Yeah. As my aunt and uncle actually came to the house and got us. As that they were the first ones on the scene. So they came and got me and my wife, which we were already up getting ready for work, because we both worked with my dad at XL Outdoors. And I realized that he wasn't there. After I'd done seen Dad in the ambulance before they airlifted him and everything, I realized that Blake wasn't there, so I figured I might want to call him. Called him, his girlfriend answered the phone, they were both asleep. And so I called him, and he was all upset. And then we met up on my way to work to talk to some of our employees, which come to find out they had already shut production down for the incident. And so a lot of the employees had actually went down there to go see my dad.
What was your reaction when you found out that your dad had survived?
My first reaction was, well, thank God that at least he did survive. But at the time, I didn't know what his conditions was, because they just said that he had told me that he'd been stabbed 6 times. And that's all I knew. I didn't know exactly where or how bad it was and everything like that. But of course, my dad's a strong-willed person too, because I mean, it took a lot for him to drag himself from the bedroom to the living room to try to call for help. So I just wish he'd had a signal on his cell phone in his bedroom, because then he'd have been able to get in touch with 911 the first time he tried to call. But he don't get signals, so it kind of threw everything out of proportion, and he had to wait till till some family members and stuff rode down the road with their windows down to hear him yelling.
It's a miracle. It is a miracle. It's a miracle.
No, it is, especially since he's on blood thinners, and so we all thought with everything that had happened that he might bleed to death before anything happened, but luckily he didn't.
That is amazing.
Yes. They said that when they found him, he had one of the curtains wrapped around his neck to try to stop the bleeding, and had it wrapped around his body to try to keep warm, because it was cold in the trailer.
And this whole time, was he in the same room?
Hold on. Say that again. I didn't hear you.
Was he in the same room during this time with your mom?
No, Mom was actually laying on him, and he was all upset. And then we met up on my way to work to talk to some of our employees, which come to find out they had already shut production down for the incident. And so a lot of the employees had actually went down there to go see my dad.
What was your reaction when you found out that your dad had survived?
My first reaction was, well, thank God that at least he did survive. But at the time, I didn't know what his conditions was, because they just said that he had told me that he'd been stabbed 6 times. And that's all I knew. I didn't know exactly where or how bad it was and everything like that. But of course, my dad's a strong-willed person too, because I mean, it took a lot for him to drag himself from the bedroom to the living room to try to call for help. So, I just wish he'd had a signal on his cell phone in his bedroom, because then he'd have been able to get in touch with 911 the first time he tried to call. But he don't get signals, so it kind of threw everything out of proportion, and he had to wait till some family members and stuff rode down the road with their windows down to hear him yelling.
It's a miracle. It is a miracle. It's a miracle.
No, it is, especially since he's on blood thinners, and so we all thought with everything that had happened that he might bleed to death before anything happened, but luckily he didn't.
That is amazing.
Yes. They said that when they found him, he had one of the curtains wrapped around his neck to try to stop the bleeding, and had it wrapped around his body to try to keep warm, because it was cold in the trailer.
And this whole time, was he in the same room?
Hold on. Say that again. I didn't hear you.
Was he in the same room during this time with your mom?
No, Mom was actually laying on the couch, so in case Travis tried to sneak off because of the incident that had happened Saturday where he got picked up by police for drinking and walking down the road. And then, so Mama slept on the couch to make sure he wasn't going to sneak out. And the dad was in the bedroom, so the only thing I can figure is that he went after Dad first, knowing that Dad would put up more of a struggle, and went after Dad while he was asleep. So Dad woke up to it. And then when he started screaming, then Mama got up and ran down the hallway, and that's where Travis met Mama in the hallway. And then so afterwards, Travis took off in my dad's truck, and then my dad ended up having to drag himself from the bedroom to the living room. So he actually had to drag himself over our mother to get to the living room.
So he just had tried to, as far as you know, and who told you this? The police?
No, it was actually my dad.
Your dad
yes.
was able to talk?
Yes, my dad was able to talk.
And he said that in his sleep, all of a sudden he was being attacked.
Yes.
And then after that, your mom tried to help, and that's when he attacked her and then took the truck.
That's correct.
Got it. I'm glad you told me this, because it was told that I've heard a totally opposite story. Thank you.
You're welcome.
At what point, because I was so upset when I heard about this story. I broke down, and I was like, I don't know, just the idea of having a sibling kill my mom.
And especially in a small town where everybody knows everybody.
Right, because I'm here all the time.
Yeah.
And I know this is such a, this is like the just the most peaceful
Yeah.
place. Because, you know, I live in Jasper, and it's so nice and peaceful here, and this is the last place, when things like this happen, and I think...
You'd expect it to be in a bigger city rather than
Yeah.
a small town.
And if I thought, so I say to myself when I heard about it and got upset last night, I thought, what would I do if my sister, for whatever reason, killed my mom?
Mm-hmm.
Would I turn my back on her? Would I stand by her because I love her, because I know she had maybe a mental problem? I don't know.
Yeah, that's the one thing that's going through everybody's mind right now. Because some people, because like my cousin just showed me a post on Facebook where someone said, well, nobody knows what was going through Travis's mind or what his motive was and everything. He could have had a good reason. Well, he might have had some good intentions, but regardless, murder is not, there's no means in justifying murder whatsoever, unless it is an absolute defense. But if it's just up and out of nowhere, there's no good reason for it. I mean, it's like saying I seen somebody walking down the road and I didn't like they were wearing an Auburn shirt and I'm an Alabama fan and I just wanted to jump them because they were an Auburn fan. I mean it's a good thing because I'm an Alabama fan, but I mean it still doesn't justify it. So.
So, what happens next? Are you going to stand by your brother because you love him?
Well, I'm gonna stand by him, but at the same time, I'm gonna kind of stand back to see what happens, as he does need help.